So I've talked a lot about the things that are great about the idol fandom. Here's the episode where I talk about the things that are actually hurting it. So initially I wrote out this long list of things I had problems with. I noticed certain items could be grouped together, so eventually it came down to 5 major categories, and I think most of the problems among fans reside within these. They are competition, legitimacy, ignorance, lack of a positive image, and anonymity. Item 1, competition. Now this one's kind of a fine line. I think a little bit of competition is healthy. It's one of the reasons why AKB has become the phenomenon it has, and competition makes things a little bit more interesting. But people need to keep things in perspective. We don't need this religious devoutness to idols that it causes us to go around sabotaging others. I get it. Idols are serious business. But let's keep in mind that a lot of the competition is created, dare I say, manufactured, so that mindless fans will scoop up merchandise for the sake of supporting their idol. But when really, it's just supporting sales. Again, it's okay to be competitive. Just know, other fans aren't your real enemy. I think I love the way Japanese fans handle it. Mostly, fans act like we're all in this big, lonely hearts club together. I think the general thing is like, hey, none of us are actually going to date any of these girls, so we're all on the same team. It's like, shit, you got rejected by her? Me too! So, when they find another person who likes their member, we've just added another person to this party. Hooray! Which leads into number 2. Legitimacy. Because of competition, fans try to separate themselves from others who they don't want to identify with. One of the most common things is what I like to call, how much of a real fan are you? There's this constant desire to prove that you're a true fan, or that you are truly hardcore. Oh, you go 3 times a week? I go 7 times. Oh, how many CDs did you buy? I bought double that. You are a dirty casual. Why is that one of the worst insults that we have? Being a casual fan. It's kind of ridiculous if you think about it. A lot of this comes from insecurity. And by insecurity, I don't mean that as a bad word. It's not an insult to you. I'm just saying we all have things that we worry about. And every one of us has to go through the process of learning what's important to us and what's not important to us. There are certain people's opinions who should matter to us. And then there's others that we shouldn't even consider. And it's going to be up to you to decide which is which. Everybody has to have the confidence to enjoy this fandom the way they want, or in the way that they can. Not everybody can go to Japan every year. They can't spend money every month, or maybe it's just a time thing. We need to be in charge of what we want to get out of this fandom. And we need to be okay with where we are. If you want to put in more time, great. Don't feel pressured because someone is figuratively calling you a chicken. Because I promise you, there will always be someone more hardcore who spends more money and more time and more effort who is more legit than you. Item 3. Ignorance. There's something I want to make sure is clear before I talk about number 3. There's a difference between ignorance and stupidity. Ignorance is the lack of knowledge or information. Stupidity is doing something that lacks good sense or judgment. So for example, let's say you've never been to an Asian person's house before. You don't know that you have to take off your shoes. So you walk in on the carpet and you get yelled at. That's ignorance. Because you don't know that that's what you're supposed to do. Maybe you weren't raised that way. That's not technically your fault. But let's say you keep doing it the next time and the next time. Then it becomes stupidity. I believe we should all be allowed one free pass. And until somebody voices their displeasure, how do we know what we did was wrong? So there's 2 areas regarding idols that I believe ignorance exists. One is among the fans. Have you ever heard someone say, oh, she's so talented, she's so hardworking, she's so deserving? At the end of the day, what do we know about how an idol is? I know we have our own personal evidence, but it would be stupid to not at least acknowledge that we don't have all the information that goes on behind the scenes when the cameras aren't rolling. So I think when talking about idols, we should all focus on the more concrete things to compliment. Oh, I like her dancing. Oh, I like how she is on shows. And less on intangible things. The other area of ignorance comes from people who just don't know about Japan. And I say Japan because most of these criticisms and cheap shots are coming from people who barely even understand how the country works, let alone the idol industry. And we have to excuse their ignorance to a certain point. But it really upsets me when they don't go further in their research. They've already made up their minds, and they've jumped on the bandwagon that makes Japan out to be that weird tentacle country. And that's why there's a number 4. The lack of positive image. Why is it the only things we hear coming out of Japan and idols is the bad stuff? Well, part of it is because controversy is interesting, right? We all love a bit of drama. We want to hear the gossip and things of that nature. Those stories spread like wildfire, and that's why they get reported on. But let's take a minute to think about it. What have we really done that's positive to get reported on in the first place? I mean, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on goods. CDs, pen lights, towels, t-shirts, photo books, photo cards, posters, magazines. Admit it, those are pretty selfish endeavors. Maybe we do it because we want to support our member, but at the end of the day, it makes us feel like we've accomplished something. And maybe that's why we're okay doing it. Now, this is not a knock on idol fans whatsoever. I think there are millions, maybe even billions, of people who do the exact same thing with their own hobbies, or worse, with their own vices. But as far as getting mentioned for something positive, I say let's do something worth reporting on. No, I don't mean voting Miyawaki Sakura into the top 5. People are not going to take notice until we finally make a difference in a way that benefits them. Which is why I want to talk about number 5. Anonymity. Largely, this generation has become the internet generation. We can do everything from behind a computer screen. There's almost no reason to leave the house. We can sit comfortably in our chairs. We can shop. We can read. We can pay bills. We can point our finger and judge all those people that we feel don't live life the way we do. And we can do all those things without having to interact with anybody face to face, which means all the mean and nasty things we say and do have no consequence. We never have to face our actions. But in person, if I call somebody a name, I see their reaction. I see that it hurts their feelings. And I probably feel like a shithead for making them feel that way. On the internet, though, we can call anybody anything we want. We feel justified, and we feel good about ourselves for pointing it out. In addition, it's very easy to misread someone on the internet because there's no vocal tone, facial expressions, or body language, which are all important in getting across the context of communication. This is one of the reasons I love going out to meet other fans, because a majority of the fans I meet are great. They're wonderful people just looking to have a good time. Now, we just need to take the next step and start being involved in the community, which I think people are doing. So let's wrap this all up with a thought. Out of all the things I talked about today, competition, legitimacy, ignorance, lack of a positive image, and anonymity, how many of these things are strictly limited to idols? Is taking competition too far something only idol fans do? Is fighting for legitimacy? Is being ignorant? How about lack of a positive image? I don't even have to explain anonymity, do I? No, these are all problems we face in the culture of our current generation. Maybe there's a couple things people like to focus on as far as idols, but I think people get hung up on those and don't acknowledge the actual problems. The truth of the matter is, idol fans are just normal people. Now, we just have to show them that we are.